everybody, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Today, I got my guy, Christopher Williams, in the building. Chris, what's going on, bro?
Not too much. Happy holidays to you and everybody else out there.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you being on, man. So we've done a number of these, man. So Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Chris Williams. I am Director of Analytic Consulting for Concentrix. I'm based out of Southern California, specifically Laguna Niguel, California. I've been in analytics for 30 years. I'm focusing a lot on Tableau and Salesforce right now. So I'm also a Tableau Ambassador, and I'm also an Alteryx ACE. And it's great to be here to speak about analytics or anything else you want to get into.
Love it, man. So that's a great introduction, man. Chris so modest, man. Y'all heard him, Alteryx ACE, Tableau Ambassador, Utility Knife, just knows a number of things. But with that introduction, you had to get your start at some point. So really, what compelled you to get into data to begin with?
Well, it's funny because we now have a different title of analytics and data. So we have predictive analytics, business analytics, and so forth. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I started with the Y2K issue with Circuit City. And so I was making sure that the world didn't explode when we went to 4-digit years from 2-digit years. So what actually got me into data and analytics specifically is when I first started working for Cognos. And then I was actually doing a lot of analytics for the war on terror. So I did a lot of work with National Counterterrorism Center, helping develop that database, did all the development of the reporting over there in National Counterterrorism Center. You're probably wondering, what is that? So the National Counterterrorism Center is now turned into the Department of Homeland Security. So all the work that we did for the NCTC has now been forwarded to the Department of Homeland Security. So I did analytics for them for just under a decade. Then I switched to the private sector and started doing analytics there, and it's just been wonderful. Now I do a lot of teaching college students as well as corporate partners as well. So it's great. What makes analytics so much fun is that they're new puzzles, and I love putting together puzzles. So even though you may solve a problem, you never solve the same problem the same way depending on the client. So it's constantly trusting your abilities to solve a problem and be able to diagnose what's going on with your data, and then being able to have that data articulate the problem to your client. So that's why it's so appealing to me.
Yeah, I love that, and that's the driving force for me as well. Is the puzzle, the problem, the challenge. How do I get these different mechanisms together to automate whatever process? Because this is important to whoever I'm working with. And like you said, no puzzle, no one problem is the same across the board. They're all unique, and it keeps you sharp and motivated to keep going. So that's awesome.
No, for sure. No, it's great. And you never ever you may see a lot of the same things, but you never see them in the same order, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you constantly are being tested on your abilities and how to apply them in different ways in order to come out with a positive outcome.
Love that. So this is one of my favorite questions that I ask, and it's more so to get to know the person behind the screen, the keyboard. And it's not necessarily data related when I ask this question. So think about all the jobs that you had, right? Whether it's delivering pizzas or doing something in newspapers or anything random, right? What's been your least favorite job to date that you've had?
Oh, my least favorite job. That's a hard one because I worked in a movie theater, and I worked for AMC movie theaters when I was just getting into college. It's not like I didn't like it, but at all, because I loved the people who I worked with at AMC. It was just, I felt like I had to take 4 or 5 showers before I got to smell the popcorn. And so that was a little bit, challenging, just because no matter what I did, I always smelled popcorn. And so that was a bit wild, but it was pretty cool though. There's not really a job that I really hated. It's just, the drill.
Yeah.
It just was kind of like feeling like you have to take another shower. So,
Exactly. I love that. I love that. All right. So I live by a philosophy called fail forward, right? You don't necessarily fail, right? Every single thing that you do is for a lesson for the next step or what have you. So, think about your career, what's been one of your biggest failures, quotation marks around failures, and what you really learned from that experience?
I remember when I first got started in Unix, and I was trying to do an install of SPSS at command line on Unix, and that was what I got it. I got there, but it was one of the more character building efforts in my career, and it's a journey I'll never ever forget because I was literally thrown into there. And it could have, the people who I was working with could have helped me out by putting, a you know, visualization tool on the Unix OS. They just didn't want to do that. I think they wanted us to just sort of, yep, we're going to do it command line. And I think that was more of a, test
Yeah.
and let's screw these guys a little bit, and just trying to see what we're made of, the initiation process. That was when I really didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I had everything is nice and neat and simple on the Windows side, but you really have to have a really expert command at command line, which I wasn't then. But at the end of that event, many nights of wondering my life choices, and trying to study to get better. But after that, that sort of was what I needed to become more comfortable in the Unix environment. So after that, I was like, well, it can't get much worse than this. The sun still came up tomorrow. So, embrace what this was. And, that was what, 20 years, maybe, 20, 22 years ago when I did that. Um, Clear as day in my mind.
Yeah.
So, there's always going to be those events in your career where things didn't always come up smelling roses. And you have a choice. You can let that happen once and then learn from that, or it can happen multiple times and never learn from that, and you
Yeah.
still have frustration. So I chose the former, and you just sort of take it. I'm never too old to learn and fail because I'm not going to know everything, and I don't expect anybody who works with me to know everything, because that's not how life works. We learn and we continue learning. So yeah, we have little failures that encourage us to know how the right way to do something. So you're always failing in a way, but you're failing forward, like you're saying, because you're failing in a safe way that nobody's going to really suffer because of it. You just want to make sure that when the lights are on and you have to perform, that you at least have a foundation of what you want to do.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And like you said, when the lights are on, that's when it matters for sure. Like you got to have it when the lights. You got to be ready when the lights come on, man. You got to
Yeah, for
perform
sure.
when it's there. So, general question, kind of going off script a little bit. So, you said something interesting that was fascinating to me. You was like 20 years. This happened 20 years ago, and I still vividly remember this. In your career, do you remember more of your wins, or do you remember more of your failures? And what I mean by that is like I can go back to when I had this moment, and do you immediately go to like, oh man, I remember that 20-year thing, and I was like, I still remember that feeling, or I remember this was a good implementation. Like, how do you kind of lean when you think about your journey?
Um, it's weird. There are times in your career where you have certain events where the speed of that slows down to almost like a snail's pace. And that tells me it's a game changing event to me or career changing event. Whether it be positive or negative, I never forget those. I have a really good memory anyway, but I can tell you step by step some of the top five events that have happened in my career, whether it be positive or negative. I mentioned the doing SPS at command line. That was not one of my finer hours, just because it was really frustrating not knowing where to go. We did not have our online resources that we have today.
Right.
When going through that, that was a very manual, very solitary event that taught me a lot about myself. And so, in the same breath, speaking about the war on terror, the reporting I had to do for that gave me a real sense of accomplishment because the work that I was doing I was directly reporting to Congress and the press. So it literally had a direct effect on how much money was going to go into certain efforts to protect, Americans overseas and
Wow.
locally. So, I did that project for close to 7 years. And honestly, I didn't have a vacation during those 7 years. And because they kind of needed I was doing. And so, in that aspect, I remember pretty much everything from that. There are certain things that I can recall step by step.
Hmm.
I think you have to have those. I think we all have those in our career, whether it be short or long. And as the longevity of your career increases, they get weeded out into some of the more prominent ones
Yeah.
as you get more things under your belt. So never forget any of it because it's what helps you form your professionalism in who you are as a professional. So I don't shy away from any of that.
Yeah.
I just kind of like to embrace all of it because all of that tells my analytical story.
Love that. Love the journey, man. I love it. I like whenever I do these interviews and ask this question, like I vividly remember like these moments in my journey where it's just like, oh, that stung. And as I've grown and evolved, like I'm having a lot of, successes and wins or whatever you want to call it. So the roller coaster of it all, but that sting, like I never want to feel that sting again. That I,
Yeah.
experienced early on. Like it's just an annoying little thorn in your side.
No, I hear that for sure. Definitely hear that.
Yeah. All right. So thinking about this, so you mentioned earlier that you teach and you kind of give back and stuff. So a lot of the audience for this are typically people in data who are trying to either break into the field or they're trying to transition or they're doing something else. So what is one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in their career?
Um, whether you're just getting started, whether you're a college student or aspiring graduate or whatever, or you just want to have a career change, analytics is a field where anybody can get into it at any time. Everybody in, nobody out. That's one of those things that I truly believe. It's afforded me a 30-year professional career. I was a Russian major in college. What the hell am I doing in analytics, right? But I always had a foundation of computer work. So I was really good. I'm really good with languages, period. Whether it be spoken languages or, computer languages. I know a ton of them and I'm not afraid to learn more because I have the discipline to learn a language. If you have the discipline to solve a problem, you're doing analytics all the time. Whether, when you're deciding when to go to the grocery store, what way you're going to go to work or come home from work, that's done because you've gotten the data of what's happened to you in the past and you're making a decision based off of the data that you have to go forward. That's the genesis of what analytics is. So when I tell my students, and I have a bunch of students at Cal State Fullerton, some at UC Irvine, and I've done some other guest speaking at times in other places around here in the SoCal area. What I always say is that if you have the desire to want to solve problems and data doesn't offend you, and you like visualizations, you can find your spot. It's up to you to find out which part of your analytics, realm fits you best. And that's going to take time for you to understand. You're going to do some stuff that you may not like, but you're also going to do a lot of things you probably do like. So take those notes, formulate your analytic journey that way, and figure out which one, what area, what direction suits you best.
Love that. So many gems in there. People listening to this, like, make sure y'all like copy all that down. Like, so many good advice in there, man. That was freaking awesome, dude. All right. So we're at the tail end of this. So where, Chris? Let me know where can listeners can find you at online.
You can always find me on my LinkedIn, Chris Williams. I know there are 10,000 Chris Williams probably, but look for this. Look for this. Look for the one from Concentrix that lives down in Laguna Beach. That you can add me at any time. I would love to talk with you about anything. If you're aspiring, trying to get into the field, um, hit me up. I do a lot of mentoring. I love being able to share what I can do to help you. And it's not a matter of me trying to get you to do what I do. I want you to form your own journey because it's you. I mean, I don't need to do a whole bunch of duplicates. There's enough of me. One of one is just fine. I don't need to do like 10 of me or a duplicate. But if you, in all seriousness, just drop me a line. You'll find me on, podcasts around about talking about analytics. But, if you want to just direct one-on-one interaction, find me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to respond and start a conversation.
Awesome. Y'all heard him. Follow him on LinkedIn. Hit him up. So much gems, man. Chris, I appreciate you taking time out today, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me, Seiko, and happy holidays to you and your family. Happy holidays to everybody out there. It's a pleasure to speak with you, and hopefully we'll run it back sometime.
Hey, love it, man. Appreciate you. And then, as I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.